I've been here about 8 months, 9 months. I'd lived on my own before then in a flat. But of course, before I retired, I'd been a schoolmistress in the girls' boarding schools, so I'd had plenty of company. But it was rather nice to be off on my own in retirement until I got to the stage where, unfortunately, even I had to accept that I needed help. And so I applied to Sunnyside.
And what inspired you to write your story?
I think I was upset at the fact that everyone seemed to take for granted that because I was old, I couldn't think. And I rather resented that.
And you put pen to paper.
I put pen to paper.
Please read me your story.
Right? I will not move. I will not move. I will not be moved. I will not move into an old age home. Famous last words. A 90th birthday, a bad fall chasing the neighbor's dog that had had the temerity to chase my cat. The terrifying experience of not being able to get up without help. Some cracked finger bones and a sprained ankle had in combination led to the acceptance of the inevitable. I would move. I would move into an old age home, and that was that. Shedding once precious materials, books, china, ornaments, pictures, furniture, my beloved cat. In fact, shedding one's life is an experience I would not wish on my worst enemy. No, perhaps it is exactly what I would wish on my worst enemy. Is it really necessary? Did my cat really have to go? My little fridge and my personal items that would have made life so much more homelike, comfortable, independent. So here I am, God help me, I thought, here I am forever. But perhaps at my age forever won't be so long after all, I comforted myself. Then reality hit me. Having spent up to a day before I moved, looking after myself at home, mending the fuse on my iron, changing the plug on my heater, it was stupefying to find myself regarded as being too old to be trusted with an electric kettle. Dangerous things, kettles and electric plugs. Having cooked my own dinner the night before I moved, carrying saucepans of boiling water from the stove to the sink and cleaning up generally, it was with benumbing horror that I heard that it was far too dangerous for old folk to fill hot water bottles. What would I do if I burnt myself? As my language has been known at times to upset the more delicate, I refrained from giving the obvious answer. But I knew this was something I had to fight. From that moment I knew I must not allow myself to be turned into a helpless old crone. I was not one of the masses. I was me. Could nobody see beyond my white hair and my old bones and my wrinkles? I'm still very much me, 90 going on 35, and wanting to make the most of this season of my life. What could be more cruel than a life sentence of time standing still and no living for fear that something might happen? Why is it necessary for people to think for me? Is it necessary? Why not ask me what I want? Rules at school are necessary. Get the children to meals on time, into the classrooms on time, onto the hockey field on time. but rules for adults with a 30-year age range and with an intelligent range of 90 to 190, well, more or less. I'm modest. I think I'm reasonably intelligent. I often forget the name of an author, which is infuriating when recommending a good book. I forget dates, but one need not be good at dates to prove that one is reasonably intelligent. I can still knit and sew and crochet. But now I was suddenly incapable of pouring out a cup of coffee or filling a hot water bottle. Nasty things, hot water bottles. Why is someone trying to make me older than I am? I was right. I should have kicked the neighbor's dog, crawled back into my flat and stayed put. But fight for it, girl, fight. 90 years old is not necessarily senile, damn it. I've got a whole lot more living to do. I had moved 20 minutes away from my old home, just 5 kilometers, and in that short space I had become disenfranchised. For 50 years I taught and made a difference to young lives, and in 20 minutes I had lost my capacity to think, to have an opinion, and God forbid, even to make a decision for myself. But there's still something not quite right. What is it? The food is excellent, well prepared, nicely served, and plentiful. Everything is spotlessly clean. Although Rosie and I sometimes have words when she complains that I leave my bathroom floor too wet. Ever tried getting out of a bath backwards while hanging on to the jungle gym for life, dear Rosie? The carers are puppets, friendly, helpful, kind, caring, and they come cheerfully whenever one rings the bell, even if it is only to hand one's dressing gown from behind the door. But something is missing. I miss my garden desperately. The grounds here are beautifully kept. The trees are superb. Touches of color here and there are sometimes quite exciting. But I didn't plant them, or water them, or watch them grow. All I brought with me was one dark pink miniature African violet. It had been a riot of blooms, but it needed repotting. So I set off one day to find the gardener and beg for a little compost. I found Will, the undergardener, at the bottom of the grounds, making a new compost trench. We washed my flower pot, filled it with delicious black friable soil from the old trench, and replanted my precious violet. Would you like an English violet to go with it, ma'am? Of course I would. This young man actually asked me a direct question. You see, he saw me as a kindred spirit, someone who loved plants as much as he did. We found another pot and planted a root, not a whole plant. I wanted to coax the single root to flowering stage, as I had with so many young lives in my teaching career. Then we inspected the compost trench, the new one. Fascinating mixture of potato peel, tomato skin, carrot tops, spinach leaves, orange quarters, lemon halves. You name it, it was there. All you do, ma'am, he said to me, is cover it up, press it down, water it occasionally, and in a year or two, presto, good dark brown soil to spread over the whole garden. I wandered back to my room, washed my hands, and made my way to the dining room. I smiled to myself as I realized that a small act of kindness from a young gardener who loved the earth and was prepared to share his joy with me had given me purpose. But inspiration comes from the most unexpected places. It was then that I knew what had been worrying. Everyone is an individual and as different as chalk and cheese. No two people should be treated in exactly the same way. Think of Will Stretch. Some of us are like a hard potato peel, with a soft, pretty tomato skin, hardy cabbage stalks, feathery carrot tops. Some are soft, sweet oranges, and others are pale, sour lemons. Unlike compost, we do not want to be pressed down and turned into compost. Lord knows we may not even have the 2 years to wait. However good and kind and loving these institutions are, there is a desperate danger of people becoming institutionalized. Acknowledge people's differences, encourage them to continue to develop differently. Age is not a disease, just a rather inconvenient stage of life which needs much encouragement, a sense of humor, and tenacity to get through. If I'm going to be here for the ride, best I make it a roller coaster ride, one to remember, so that I can smile on my deathbed and say, now that was a life well lived. Remember, our budgets are limited, but our brains aren't. My challenge to all out there is individualize, don't institutionalize. We oldies have too much time and too little to do in it. How wonderful it would be to have interaction from the greater community. We have wonderful activities here. But what about the excitement of day-to-day happenings in your home? Being able to go into a home for a few hours and share a cup of tea, hear about a cat that had kitten, your dog that bit the postman, the funny stories of what the kids have been up to. It's been so long since anyone even asked my opinion on anything. And where are the children and the animals and people? I have an opinion on most things. Try asking me. Whether it's on politics, the last cricket test, the French Open, global warming, latest fashion in women's shoes, or even the price of chocolates. I've decided I shall be an activist. Now all I need is someone to listen. Don't talk over me or down to me. I gave up my flat, not my intellect. And do you know, I do believe that life might just begin at 90.